Welcome to Supercool, the show about real-world climate solutions that cut carbon, boost the bottom line, and improve modern life. Each week on Supercool, we go behind the headlines to pinpoint the stories and data, accelerating the low-carbon economy in towns and cities across the U.S. and around the globe. I'm your host, Josh Dorfman. How often do we hear the refrain, "The system is broken"? It could be politics, or lax oversight of Wall Street. Maybe it's the college football playoffs, or trying to register an out-of-state car. The truth is, our modern society is riddled with systems that don't work like they should. Health insurance? Broken. Air travel? Broken. Scheduling a doctor's appointment within 3 months? Forget it. For most of us, these broken systems are frustrating, sometimes infuriating, and seemingly impossible to fix. But every now and then, someone comes along and says, "We can fix this. We will fix this." Today's episode is about one of those broken systems, student transportation. The school bus system in America is a relic, largely untouched since its inception more than 80 years ago. And it's the largest mass transit system in the country, transporting 27 million students daily on about 500,000 buses. To put that in perspective, the second largest transit system, air travel, carries just 2.9 million passengers a day. But despite its scale and importance, the system is shockingly inefficient. Here's what's wrong. 1, no one knows where the buses are. We can track Amazon packages, Uber drivers, and even family members via apps like Life 360. But the school bus, no one has any idea. 2, buses are chronically late. In October 2022, New York City reported 14,500 instances of late buses, with students arriving on average 41 minutes late to class. And New York City isn't alone. The same issues plague Houston, Bethesda, Roanoke, St. Louis, Washington, D.C., and so many cities around the country. And 3, bus routes are inefficient. Kids wait in the dark, often hours before school starts, for buses to cover poorly optimized routes. Take my daughter, for example. Her elementary school is just 2 miles away and starts at 7:40 a.m., but her bus pickup is at 6:30 in the morning. That's 70 minutes to go 2 miles. This isn't just inconvenient, it's detrimental. Sleep experts recommend that kids aged 6 to 12 get 9 to 12 hours of sleep per night. But early pickups make that impossible. And these early starts, they're designed to maximize bus usage, not student well-being. And the ripple effects are enormous. Parents can't leave for work until their kids are on the bus, making them late. Students start their day exhausted. And society slows down because a system that touches nearly every family in America is fundamentally broken. But in 2019, things began to change, thanks to a company called Zum. In this case, Z-U-M. Founded by Ritu Narayan, Zum set out to transform student transportation. With over a decade working in Silicon Valley at companies like IBM, Oracle, Yahoo, and eBay, and as a mom who understood the frustrations firsthand, Ritu decided enough was enough. Zum started as an Uber for student transportation, using technology to let parents track their kids' rides and ensure drivers were thoroughly vetted. Then the city of Oakland approached Zum with a bigger challenge: manage the entire school bus system. Ritu and her team seized the opportunity. Now Zum is rewriting the rulebook for student transportation. And here's what that looks like. First, real-time tracking and notifications. Parents use a mobile app to track their child's bus, receive updates, view driver info, and notify schools if their child won't ride that day. Second, route optimization. Zum uses advanced software to continually update and streamline bus routes, ensuring buses are running on time and efficiently. Third, electric school buses. In 2024, Zum deployed the nation's first fully electric school bus fleet in Oakland. And amazingly, by optimizing bus routes, they reduced the number of buses needed from 136 down to 74, cutting costs, carbon, and toxic diesel fumes. And fourth, along with those electric vehicles came one of the nation's first rollouts of vehicle-to-grid technology. Oakland's electric buses don't just sit idle. They feed energy back into the grid during high-demand periods. So Zum can't really be thought of as just a transportation company. It's also not just a technology company or a logistics company or a human resources company or even an infrastructure company. It's become the entire system. The result is peace of mind for parents, a better experience for students, happier bus drivers, and school administrators who finally have visibility into the transportation system. Today, Zum is one of the fastest growing companies in America. It manages transportation for 4,000 schools, including the entire Los Angeles, San Francisco, Seattle, and Boston school districts. Last year, the company raised $140 million at a $1.3 billion valuation, effectively becoming a unicorn. So what's Zum's secret sauce? First, it's world-class management. They handle everything behind the scenes so parents, students, administrators, and drivers have this incredible seamless experience. No hiccups, no hassle, just a system that works. Second, it's their ability to collaborate. Ritu calls it inspiring the technology ecosystem. And it's what allows the company to pull off big, complex solutions at lightning speed. Fixing student transportation and tackling climate challenges takes everyone working together. Zum knows how to rally partners, get everyone on board, and move in the same direction. And third, it's empathy. This company truly understands the frustrations and challenges families and schools face, and that empathy shapes everything they do, from designing intuitive software to creating solutions that genuinely delight. Hearing Ritu talk about how Zum is fixing student transportation is deeply inspiring, because all this company had to do is everything. Here's my conversation with Ritu. I've known about your company now for, really since we started working on Supercool earlier this year. And the first thing that, of course, jumped out at us from a Supercool lens was when I'd read about the work that Zum was doing in Oakland and transitioning Oakland to 100% EVs and all the details behind that. I just thought, yes, that's amazing. That's the future. And then I went and read recently, or I guess it was from the fall, that you're now, not necessarily just with fully EVs, but you're now in 4,000 schools. You're managing student transportation. And I thought, how the heck is that possible? I mean, that is so fast. Your company hasn't been around really all that long to be able to have this scale trajectory. So maybe that's the place to start, is tell us a little bit about Zum, how this came together. And I'm so interested in that scale story because it's really so remarkable.
Yeah, so almost a decade back, I was working at eBay, building large-scale marketplace products and managing that. But in my personal life, I was facing this challenge. My little one transitioned to preschool, and how do you pick up and drop off your children while you're still at work and make it happen safely, reliably, and sustainably? Any solution I would put would fall apart. That led to the curiosity, that led to frustration. And interestingly, growing up in India, my mom, 30 years before that, had left a job as an educator for exact same reason, to take care of me and my siblings. So it was kind of an aha moment that here I am, sitting in Silicon Valley, the most advanced technology place, seeing everything around me getting transformed using technology. But when it comes to this area, nothing has changed. And why it has not changed. In 2016, when we launched, we were trying to solve the problem for parents. We were also called Uber for Kids. But very quickly, schools started asking us for the solution. And in 2019, the solution was working so well, we decided to scale it up and work with the large school districts. And today, as you know, we are working with 4,000 districts across the country. And the reason behind it was this area, student transportation, has not changed in 80 years. Kids pretty much commute the same way you and I did, or our grandparents did. Nothing much had changed. And interestingly, no technology had touched this area, which led to very little transparency. Parents had no visibility where the kids are. While in personal life, they can track their pizza, they can track their packages, but they don't know where their kids are once they go in the morning, when are they coming back. And there is a very high level of inefficiencies in the system where districts end up spending a lot of money but not getting what they have to in terms of safety and reliability. And third for us was this area, there are 500,000 school buses on the road, but less than 2% of them are electrified. So it's very highly polluting and bad for the health of children, bad for the health of climate. And we had this strong conviction that in next few years, 100% of these buses are going to be electrified. And because of that conviction, we started a solution, two theses in mind. First, we would transform this area using technology and digitization, bringing peace of mind, bringing transformational efficiencies to the districts, to the parents. And second, using electrification, we would bring sustainability and clean transportation to the communities every single day.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's so exciting. And I hear you talking about how this hasn't changed for 80 years. And I think back to the 1980s when I was riding school buses. But in the 1980s, my parents didn't care where I was. It was he's on the bus, he's fine, he'll make it back. It was just culturally, it was very different. But then when you get into, like you're talking about now here in the 21st century, I can track a package. I know where just about anything is at any moment. But now I don't know where my kids are. That seems crazy to me. I mean, just how much our culture has transformed technologically, and yet student transportation. And the other thing that I've heard you say, and when I've read about Zum, most people don't realize that this is the biggest fleet of buses of anything on the roads in the country. We have no concept of just how massive this problem is, this industry is, right? The situation is.
Absolutely. And just to give you an idea of that and reiterate, like student transportation is the largest mass transit system in the country. Okay. It is larger than the subsequent mass transit system, airlines and trains combined. I mean, that's the massive scale. 27 million kids commute twice on the system. Even on the second largest mass transit system, airlines, only 9 million people travel on a given day. So people don't realize the scale of it. It is also an essential service for districts. They essentially get paid for their education budget based on the attendance of the children and safety and reliability of children. So districts end up spending enormous amount of money on this, and it is very important to bring the efficiencies for the districts, bring that level of experience. And districts also are looking for innovation and sustainability. They are very aligned in terms of bringing the solutions that are helpful for the health of children and also helpful for the health of climate. So that's where the scale and the need for the system is so much there. And you'll be surprised, not much innovation, nothing has changed.
That's the situation, that's the setup. When you pivot and you say, okay, we're going to go work with school districts. I'd like to talk about the experience that you had working with the Oakland School District, getting to the point of 100% EV deployment, because one of the things that I found so interesting and frankly surprising, kids aren't even getting to school on time on the buses that the school's deploying to go get those kids and bring them to the school. I didn't know that. I mean, I have 3 young kids, but I was also so fascinated to learn about how Zum was actually able to work with the school district to even shift the RFP process, right? All of that was so interesting, how this actually came about. It wasn't just like, hey, we love what you're doing, come do it for us, right? There was still a whole number of hurdles that needed to be overcome. So can you take us back? Can you kind of talk about your business development process, working with Oakland, the school district there, like how that came about?
So in 2019, when we decided that we would start working with the districts, we were already serving Oakland school districts, but in the small vehicle fashion. And they were amazed by our technology. They were amazed at what we were providing them. So me and my team, we went and spoke with Kim Rainey, who's the transportation director there. And she had come from FedEx and was taking charge of like around 3,000 students every single day, tons of buses and drivers and everything. And again, she had no visibility. She was like, this is absolutely crazy. And when we showed our solution to her, it was like, do you have it now? The solution is so good with the backdrop that I've set about the problem that exists today and what we provide in terms of every single stakeholder connected on the one single technology platform, whether it's parents, it's students, it's school districts. So what that means is every data point is available to the districts and administrators to make those choices. The second thing we do is we take care of the entire headache. School districts don't have to manage anything. Think of us like almost like a AWS for student transportation. When Zoom comes in, we take care of establishing the infrastructure. We are vertically integrated. We hire the drivers. We essentially manage the yard. We deploy the technology to make sure all the student information, all the routes are designed in the right fashion. And because of that, it's very easy for the district to adopt it from that perspective. What we had to educate the district was, instead of just focusing on price, you also have to focus on the value that you're getting out of your transportation system. Are you getting the technology? Are you getting the visibility? Are you getting user experience? What about the reliability of the operations? Are you able to see the metrics in terms of your timeliness and uptime and the number of rides executed on time? And then finally, sustainability. Is this the provider that can make the system sustainable and deploy it at a large scale? Like sustainability or electrification process in itself is a mega thing where you have to establish the entire connection with the utility, and you have to have a charging infrastructure. And in our case, we also had the vision right from the beginning that these electric school buses are actually the largest battery on wheels. They are 4 to 6 times Tesla battery, and they are a very unique asset where they have a very predictable local commute pattern. They're used for transportation during the day, but in the evening time, they come back to the yard and they are not used for transportation. That is the peak demand of energy. So these electric school buses can be used as a storage device, and we can provide energy back to the grid, making the grid more resilient, and also making the whole system more affordable because of that energy revenue to the districts and to the communities. So in terms of win-win-win, it was such a compelling solution that districts had to ask for it. And that was a process that we essentially educated the districts, and there was no looking back. I mean, for the districts, pretty much what's there to say no. They would like to adopt the solution, and we won Oakland and then San Francisco, LAUSD, Seattle, now many in the Midwest and East Coast, and expanded rapidly from there.
It's amazing to hear you describe all of the value to parents, to having visibility to their children. They can see who the bus driver is, the value to a transportation director, like you mentioned at the Oakland School District, who can see, okay, where are the buses? Where are my students? I've read about the morale of the drivers, that everything kind of gets elevated. The whole system gets improved. People are happier to be part of it. But still, just knowing the school district is still part of the city. And you're in an environment with a competition who are saying like, well, we'll do the buses. Here's the price, right? And the traditional RFP, as I understand, has said like, what's the price, right? It doesn't have all these other value adds that Zum is offering. Sustainability, transparency, higher quality of service. Like that wasn't in the original RFP that you would have had to compete on. There was some shift where districts had to say, yeah, we're willing to actually go outside of our bureaucratic norms and align with the kind of value that Zum offers. I mean, it's so heartening to know that actually happened. Did that surprise you when that happened? Because it just doesn't seem like the norm.
That is a quality of disruption. First of all, the pain point has to be big, and you have to have early adopters who are also feeling that pain point, imagining that there would be a solution, and then comes along provider. And we do it with intensity, we do it 100% student-centered, like what is the right thing to do for the student. And our districts, when they love the solution, they love to talk about it to the other districts. So it is not even Zum, it's the customers telling other customers what are they missing out on. Many of the districts like to follow the innovative districts. They would like to be like them. Disruption and the spread of innovation has to have certain conditions, and from Zum's perspective, we focused a lot on that, like how could we make it easy? And when you are so aligned with all your stakeholders, then the things happen from our perspective. But I would have to say, looking back, things look easy. We did have to bring districts along, and it has been amazing to see the response.
The climate tech companies that break through really do think about their customer and how can I make this as easy for you, as seamless for you? How can I elevate your experience? I'm hearing you, school district, on your immediate pain points that I can address. And if Zoom can address them, now we can get in the door. And yes, we're going to create all this sustainability value over time. But you can't lead with that and get the deal done, right?
It has to be a painkiller, and in our case, like I have 2 children, that's the reason company was founded. Every single morning and every single afternoon you feel the pain. If that system doesn't work, nothing else works. Transportation directors used to tell us they would stay back till 7 o'clock working on walkie-talkie till the last student was delivered safely. And in our case, I mean, they have everything on their tip and on the mobile app and on their systems. They could be anywhere, knowing exactly the status. And I have to say the first act of this is very critical to sustainability because we are optimizing the routes. We are reducing the number of assets. For example, in Oakland, they were using somewhere around 136 buses. We reduce it to like 74 buses. So that's the kind of reduction we can bring. In San Francisco, there were 236 buses. They started using 196 buses. And for corner cases, we are able to facilitate multi-size fleet. And the reason we can do it is because of the technology, and we also improve the utilization of the assets. So all of those things are very critical because when we do the electrification, we want to make sure the system is optimal to optimize for the battery time. Like if you're not making good use of your battery time and exhausting it in transportation, then you don't have enough battery life to give back. So the whole system was thought through from end to end. Like it started out from making lives easier and how can we save districts money, and it came into when you do electrification, how is it beneficial? I will give you one other example. Like in this industry, there's a norm that when school children on board the buses, the school bus has to stop for 3 minutes. It's an unwritten norm on every stop to make sure the student hasn't missed the bus hasn't missed the student, that handoff has happened. And many times when the student doesn't come, driver gets out, they mark the driveway with the chalk just to make sure nobody fights and the bus was here. And because of our system, we reduced that onboarding time to 8 seconds.
Wow.
Given all the information is available, when the bus is going to be there, how far it is, 2 minutes left, all of that. Now, shaving off 3 minutes on every stop, if you have 10 stops, it's almost like shaving 30 minutes off the commute time for students. But if you look at it, when you electrify the buses, that means 30 minutes of additional discharging time per bus that you have, which you can now provide back to the grid, that energy in the peak time, and add to the resiliency of the grid. So that is the kind of impact, and that's why I always, when I talk about sustainability, both the aspects are very critical for us.
I'm glad you brought that up. I was going to ask about Oakland, that you were able to reduce the number of buses, which is also just remarkable. I mean, if it were nothing else, that would be amazing. Less cost, less assets to manage, so that utilization of assets so efficiently, because you have all the data, right, that you can then optimize routes, like what you're describing, shrinking times for bus stops. It's really fascinating. When you pull together your team to build this company, did you know the kind of complementary pieces you were going to need from a skill set, expertise? You do take over the whole operation and kind of verticalize so much.
The team started from my co-founders. We had 3 co-founders along with me. We have very complementary skill. One of my co-founder has deep skills in sales and operation. The other one builds large-scale technology. He's a CTO. And then we added the team around it. When we started working with the large school districts, we hired somebody who is our EVP of student transportation. She comes with 30 years of experience in the industry. And she was our actually counterpart, and we saw that she also was innovative but stuck in this industry. So it was such a great match. She brings the experience, and as we started moving across the country, and we had to do this large-scale implementation where you have hundreds of buses and thousands of students come on board instantly when you deploy. We brought in the expertise of people who could manage that kind of operations and customer support and all of that. In terms of electrification, we added a team who is specialized and really expert in being able to do that. In Oakland, electrification, first of all, the entire project was done a year ahead of the original time, and that was again because of the expertise and the passion of the team in getting that delivered and making that happen, and the need we saw in that community. I mean, you probably know Oakland is one of the most affected community in terms of pollution and in terms of diversity of the population living there. So we work with the utility in making it happen. We work with all our ecosystem to get the project deployed in record time. And starting this school year flawlessly, all the drivers were trained and the entire infrastructure was available. When students sat in the buses, they couldn't believe, like, it's so like noiseless and it's so clean. What just happened here? Type of thing. So to get back to your question, yes, the team is the one which makes it happen, and we continue to add the expertise to deliver on each pieces of our mission and vision here.
Yeah, and I guess it's just, a credit to you, obviously, as the CEO and your team, but to think about just the software, the technology, what you're powering. Everyone's going to have visibility into the system. All the data that then drives more efficiency, as we're talking about. But then you bring in this other piece around electrification. And as you said, it's not as simple as saying, okay, we're ready, install the chargers. Those projects have long lead times. You have to work with utilities. You have to make sure the power is going to be delivered. Like, there's a whole set of experts. And that's also new, right? It's not like, oh yeah, there's tons of these experts who know how to do that. And then you bring in this vehicle to grid. Okay, now we're not just going to charge, but we're actually going to send power right back to the grid. Well, I don't know of a lot of projects of the scale of the Oakland School District that are doing vehicle to grid for stabilization, like on that scale. So all of these aspects, I mean, I know this is your daily existence, so you're like, yeah, we figured it out. But from the outside, it's like, okay, well, that's a huge thing in its own right? That could probably be its own company. But you bring it all in-house, and so it seems like a lot of the core, how can I say this? The innovation, what makes your company work is actually having the management processes, skill sets, whatever, to actually effectively deliver all of this as one seamless experience to the customer. That seems to be one of the most critical things as I'm hearing you talk about the business.
Yeah, I would say that integrated end-to-end platform, and when you talk about the platform, it's the technology, it's the processes, it's how we manage everything, how we align and do the projects is the differentiation. And with the speed and scale we are able to deliver is super critical. But the fundamental is that integrated platform which allows us to scale so fast. So to give you an example, I mentioned to you all the stakeholders are on the platform, and we were able to do entire logistics in the right side of the picture. But when we started doing electrification, we had the best information of when to charge the bus, when to discharge the bus, and how much, because we know the transportation pattern, so we extended our platform and integrated with the best in class where we had to provide this end-to-end information, and that actually accelerates our progress. And also definitely working very well with the ecosystem partners is of high value. Traditionally, utilities are said to be slow, but in our case, we were able to inspire the entire ecosystem to make this happen. Like, we had to upgrade the utility there to around 2.9 megawatt powers. And based on that now, when we go out and do new projects, we already look for those attributes of what would it take to make the electrification faster. So there's also like the core expertise, the platform, but there's also a learning component of how fast can the company learn and deliver the next project even better. All of those things coming together, when you have a great problem that you're inspired by, you have a product market fit on it, and you continue to out-deliver, that's the type of innovation that we are bringing through Zum in the market.
No doubt. I love how you said inspiring the ecosystem, but also inspiring that ecosystem to move at the pace you need it to move. That does seem to be on our end at Supercool when we're looking at whether it's building a net zero energy school or it's getting bike lanes built really fast in a city. When we're looking at these cross-sector of industries, there's a kind of a core competence. There's almost, I feel like part of climate tech innovation is actually being able to like bring that coalition of the willing together and get them to all move really fast and bring their best, right? Like that is a skill unto itself. It seems so critical to moving these major projects forward that you've all identified, just given the complexity of delivering, like you said, end-to-end seamless experience to the customer. I love that. I want to switch gears for a minute. I'm curious, like you're in all these school districts. What I don't fully understand is what, maybe it's very simplistic, but I just don't understand, like what's the revenue model for Zum?
We bid on RFPs, and typically these school districts are outsourcing their transportation for the entire infrastructure, and the districts just pay based on the routes. They have the multi-year contract. They pay every month based on the route price. You have bid number of routes they have, how many students they need to serve, what are the locations, and based on the package, district provides the contract, and we take care of everything behind the scenes. Now, electrification piece is very expensive. Districts are not paying for that infrastructure. Zum is paying for that infrastructure. And we have worked out a model where we are making it more affordable, but like not passing cost to the districts as much by essentially this B2G. That's why having the bidirectional was super critical for us to make use of electric school buses, to give revenue back to the grid, add to the grid resiliency for utilities in peak time, and from that revenue, essentially subsidize the infrastructure for the school districts and make it affordable, make it available at scale.
I see. So you're being compensated just like anyone who would be providing that service.
That's right.
I see. Mm-hmm. And so you mentioned for your expansion, is it 4,000 districts or 4,000 schools?
4,000 schools.
4,000.
Country. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a staggering number. And the last count I'd read, maybe it's changed, was 14 states. Maybe it's more now. You talked about you did Oakland, and then you got San Francisco, and then you got LA. And that's not all electrification yet, but that's Zum coming in, managing the services. And I know you have a vision to get to 100% electrification. And you're on the East Coast, you're in Boston, you've expanded nationwide. Is your business development still being pulled by districts who want Zum, or are there districts you're targeting still that you're showing up trying to make that sale?
I would say when we started, it was 100% outbound. We had to educate the districts. We were the new player in town. What is our value proposition? Now that we have established infrastructure at such a scale across the country in 14 states, as you mentioned, and growing, quite a bit inbound. Like districts call us year before. They say next year we would be coming in for a change and we would like to learn more about you, what you have to offer. And they are talking to our customers and learning about their experience. So the solution has become more successful. There's a lot of inbound. And also realize that these implementation and deployments are large scale. In Boston, where you mentioned, there are 800 buses that the district has deployed on our platform, and tens and thousands of students commute on our platform every single day. And that city had a chronic timeliness issues for years, and we solved the timeliness issues within a few weeks. So that's a kind of transformation that comes with our deployment in any district that we go to. So it is pretty easy for districts to be able to talk about it. For us, like, success of the customer is the number one thing, and experience of the student and how they can be engaged. Like teachers tell, there is a difference in the level of engagement we see when the students arrive at school. Usually it used to take them an hour to adjust, given the ride experience and what they would have. And they found that students were more engaged in the class because they were having a better ride experience. We also do a lot of things in terms of taking care of the bus environment itself, like the buses have the air conditioning and the seats are more comfortable, and all of those things, combined experience. It's not just like the buses are cleaner and quieter and newer. And then there's a component of knowing where your bus is and having no anxiety about waiting in the snow and waiting in the rain type of thing. So combined together, elevating that experience, that is the stage when people start talking about your product to each other.
I know you have like world-class backers, world-class investors. It's a very envious list of VCs, and all of that's gone exceptionally well. It's just purely speculative. But do you think that you could have continued to see this entire value proposition, what it means for a student to be on this bus, if you weren't a mom?
Having a personal problem had led to that passion. And my background was building large-scale products. Before that, I'd worked in technology for years. So combine together this extreme problem you're having in personal lives and the expertise that you have and being able to see the entire picture, not just like one component of it, has definitely added to it. My kids rode Zoom and still ride like for years, and they would be the first one to give me feedback, like what was good, what was great, and what could be better. And interestingly, when we started out Zoom, parents used to use it. I would go in different communities and gatherings, and they would talk about Zoom and say, it seems like a parent designed it. The solution feels like so thoughtful. And I would laugh and chuckle and think, yes, the parent indeed designed the solution. So it does help when you are the user of the product and you have the pain point. It adds to it, but we didn't stop there. We actually looked into the experience firsthand of other parents. We talked to them. We looked at the experience of the child that they are having every day in the bus and off the bus and waiting at the stop. And what does a day look like for a transportation director? What are their pain points? Where do the challenges in safety or the handoffs happen? How can we make the entire system more transparent, more trusted, more safe, more sustainable? All of those elements is what I would say make Zoom great.
As you're describing, there's a great deal of empathy for all the stakeholders. And I just have this thought, at least in a very sort of stereotypical Silicon Valley way, where you're pitching a lot of men and they're like, school buses, like parents, like how is this a problem? Right? A parent would say like, well, let me describe this pain to you, and let me also describe like I want my child to actually show up and be in the best state of mind to be able to learn. I'm the parent. I want to be able to know where my child is. I want the school bus driver to be in the best frame of mind because he's in charge of my child while he's on that bus. So that's one thing. But then I think like, well, what's also fascinating to me is that you found an industry that's so massive that was living in, like you said, hadn't changed for 80 years. And that's not easy to do. I mean, this touches everyone's life, and it's ripe for disruption.
No, you absolutely nailed it. Like the criteria for success is you have to have a big market. But our approach was not looking at the market size. Our approach was looking at this is a daily problem. This has not changed in years. And when changed, what impact would it bring? And we got to a stage very early on, because of being a parent and the mom thing, the narrative of the company was so strong that whether it was a team we were interviewing, it were investors we were pitching to, or the districts we were pitching to, they would be pitching the same pitch to us within 2 minutes. They would be telling us, like, yeah, this is what we experienced. When I was, somebody would say, like, I was the last one to be picked up because my mom used to work or something. So everybody has an association towards it, and that's what helps us.
And just projecting forward now, where do you go 2025, the next couple of years? I know you've talked about, and your company's talked about, a very short time frame to try to get to 100% electrification. I don't know if that's even on you, or there are bottlenecks in the way, if there's a supply chain of EV buses that's even big enough to make that happen. But where does Zum go from here?
It is very important that we continue to expand and provide this solution to more and more districts across the country, and we provide this to parents and students, like everybody can avail of our solution. So that's the number one, giving access to additional districts and states. And the second aspect, it is our mission to electrify as many buses as possible and essentially get towards the 100% electrification of our entire fleet. And we have been working tirelessly with our ecosystem, like who are the suppliers who can provide us in this timeline at the scale, and we feel pretty good about it. And same, we've been working with the right sources of financing that will allow us to do this deployment at scale. So in the next few years, maybe next time we talk, you will see more of it, all of this will come to fruition and deployment at scale. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. Ritu, I just want to thank you for coming on Supercool, for sharing the story and really digging into the details, the value proposition, what you offer. We would say it's super cool.
Thank you.
That's-
Thank you. Really enjoyed speaking with you. Thank you so much.